Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to install NetAPI using Python 3. We will follow along with the documentation which can be found on the NetAPI repository. So underneath installation and operating instructions, there's a link to Python 3. So we'll click on that. The first step is to clone the repository using the command shown above. So we'll clone the repository. I'm using Windows Subsystems for Linux and it works quite well. Next step is to move into the Net API directory. Back to the documentation, you will need to populate your Nornir inventory files. I've provided some examples here. These examples work within my lab, so I won't need to adjust them, but you will need to adjust them accordingly. So the next step is to create a Python virtual environment. It's a really good habit to get into using Python virtual environments. They're a great way of managing your various projects with different modules and dependencies. It's a good way to keep things separate and not allow them to affect other projects. Okay, next we will activate the virtual environment. Okay, and back to the documentation, we're now going to install all the modules required for NetAPI. There are quite a few modules for NetAPI, so what we might do is let these install and come back to them once they are done. Okay, as we can see, they've all been installed now. So the next step is to set the default credentials for Nornir. I'm using some sample credentials here, as you can see, and we'll check that those credentials have been set correctly. Which they have been. Okay, the next step is to set the netTextFSM environmental variable where all our NTC templates are located. And again, we want to validate that they're in the correct space, which they are. Okay, between now and a few moments ago, I have changed the credentials to NetAPI so that they will work as needed in future. So on to the last step, we need to change into the app directory. And finally, we need to run the Python Flask application. As you can see here, the application is up and running and listening on port 5000. What we will do is open the web page on this host. As you can see here, we have a lot of information about NetAPI, introduction, links to the API documentation and Swagger itself, links to the repository and some examples and reference guides. But what we will do is click on the API docs link. As you can see here, we have all our API endpoints and we have tags. And if we expand one of those tags, we can see all the endpoints associated with, for example, the Nornir tag. What we want to do is look under the inventory grouping and look at NR inventory hosts. It's telling us that it's going to return some structured data in this format. But what we want to do is click try it out. And as you can see in here, it has information about our inventory. You can see things like host names, etc. Next, we can copy the request URL and we can use this inside a browser. So this works within Firefox. We can load the page and as you can see here, we have all the JSON data in relation to the inventory. Okay, that wraps things up for today. In today's video, we saw how to install NetAPI on Python 3. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.